Hello, this is Zeke777. Welcome back to Ars Nouveau. This is episode 12, and, well, to be honest, we've been working on some designs on Discord, and I am excited to get started working on them. And I've also been thinking about what to do as far as my buildings here. Now, when I originally built this building here, or at least the shell of it, my plan for this was Wixie's auto-crafting food for me, and I'd have like a little walk-up area over here, and you can just kind of select whatever items you'd like. So say I want to grab a stack of sweet berry rolls or whatever, I can just grab it. And I decided I don't like that idea. I think I do want to move the, or not move because I haven't built it yet, I think I do want to have the Wixie's crafting food over here, and then I can kind of design this like a little, like a tavern floor down here or something, and then up here probably just rooms or something, I don't really know. But my plan then is this building over here I can use for my warp selector. So previously my warping between various areas was basically just a chest with a little warp rune next to it. And we've been working on a plan, and that plan is a server warp hub. But not just any hub. The plan is that every person who wants to can have their own little selector in their own base and be able to select every single warp from the server hub. And the way it's going to work, we kind of need to work out the actual details of what the individual selectors are going to be. I think each person's probably going to have their own different design, but working off the same general mechanics. And that is, an item is going to get sent through a portal. And let's grab our arcane stone because we're going to need that. An item is going to get sent through portals, which is then going to go to the server hub, which is then going to select where it's going to send it, send a warp spell projectile from over at the server hub over here, and it's going to bounce between some prisms. They can walk right through. So as I mentioned, each of them is going to be a little different. And my plan for how I'm going to set this up is I'm going to have a chest, kind of similar to what I had before. I do want it to be a archwood chest. I think I have a couple here. So I'm going to have a double chest here, just kind of right there, roughly. Really, it's going to be an even number on an odd thing. Okay, cool, whatever. I'm just going to push the wall that way, I think. My plan's going to have a chest right here and a couple hoppers underneath here. And basically what's going to happen is you walk up to the chest and there'll be, say, limestone representing someone, cobbled deep slate representing someone else, don't care, dirt, whatever. So you can have an item that'll represent each player. You walk up, say I want to go here, you type Q, which will throw the item in, which will then get picked up by the hoppers, which will then send it into the system, which is basically just going to warp it over to server hub, and then it'll then take that as a signal saying, hey, Zeke wants to teleport somewhere, because it's going to recognize my warp portal. It's going to be a certain spot, and this item is going to represent a person, and it's going to know to send in a warp little projectile over here. And I think what I'm going to do is set up a little system. Do I want it here? I don't know. I've got a lot of redstone to do, so let's get working. So the basics of how the selector is going to work is I'm going to have hoppers here, a spell turret underneath it to be able to take from this hopper. It's going to be just a toss turret. And we're going to have a comparator read this hopper, which will then go into a block. So I'm going to grab just a deep slate block here. Not cracked, but regular, please. Okay, we'll just grab this one. Actually, let's grab polished. Polished, this looks good. Okay, so this is going to go into a block right there. And that is going to go to a single redstone dot underneath here. And is that going to power it directly? It's not going to hard power. I need a pole over here first. So when there's a signal in there, I need a signal out here. So I believe what I can do is just a redstone dust here then. Dust there. And a block here with a repeater on it, which is very similar to a standard item sorter, except normally you'd go that way a little bit further because you want a little bit stronger signal. In this case, I only want anything. So if I get a single item in here, that will then power this. So repeater on powers this block, which powers the turret. And just double check, if I take this out, it will then turn off. Perfect. Okay, that is basically almost done. We need the spot for a portal underneath here. So let's grab a little bit of arcane brick. And with the latest update, we can now make portals that are this size and horizontal, which is really handy. I'm actually not going to do that though, just because I want to have a little bit more room, just in case. In fact, I'm going to put the room on this side. I won't need the extra room for any sort of mechanics type thing, but it's kind of difficult to throw an item in there and then come down here and set the warp turret thingy. So I think this is really all I need. Let's put some blocks underneath there. There we go. And that's honestly most of the circuit here. So we got a little carried away. Portal down here is set for just on top of this prism here. That's kind of temporary, but it'll normally be going back to the main server hub, and then an item will be coming back here. But basically all that's going to make a difference here is just a little bit more of a delay, which we don't even need here anyway, so it works. So at least for testing purposes, we can show it off. Anyway, item would come in here, go down, hit the bottom prism, because it's a spell, it's a toss spell that'll be coming in. It'll bounce off this bottom prism and go up to the top one there. However, before it does that, when an item gets into this hopper, first it is detected by this red stringed comparator, which then goes over here. This is just a sticky piston underneath here, which pops up quickly, and it's a monostable circuit. So basically a signal comes in, and it turns into a single tick pulse. That single tick pulse causes this piston to pull back this prism, which basically then allows for when we have a toss spell coming in, it won't hit the top prism, it'll hit the hopper up there instead, which then through hoppers and more red string, it just bounces it back down into this original chest. So we can kind of demonstrate it just by going here, hitting Q to toss the torch in, bounces up, and pulls it out of the way just long enough for the toss spell to go up into the items, and now as a warp spell comes in second, it'll just bounce up and down between these prisms, waiting for me to walk over here and teleport to my destination. And that's it. That's it. This is the client side of the warp selector. And I should point out that with the red string containers here and red string comparator, it's not really necessary. I could just as easily have had this whole thing be underground here, and instead of pulling back the top prism, instead pull this side prism instead. The bottom one, sorry. I could just easily have done that, but I kind of like this idea, because I mostly just like the idea of having the items be moving up above here and still getting back into the chest. If I were to have it down below here, the only difference is I would need to somehow get it back into this chest, which would probably be from this side, I suppose, with like a dispenser or something, or a dropper to push it into the chest, because if it'd be coming in from the bottom here, I need to get it up a couple blocks. So minor details, it can be built either way, and I think what we're going to do is have multiple versions of this for people on the server, and they can kind of mix and match whatever they'd like. In fact, you could also, instead of having it be a selector like this, you could have like a big wall of buttons or something as well. It kind of depends on what they want. So still need to sort out how I want to have my lighting in here, but I think in general this is going to be kind of the design for the floor. Probably more gold in here. I like more gold. But we have right here, it's a frame carpet from Block Carpentry, which will allow us to just kind of toss anything through it, and it'll still just work. Perfect. Yeah, I'm happy with this. Up top here, I was kind of toying around, I might actually move this up one block just so I can then kind of hide the red string container as well as the pistons. I might rework the circuit a little bit, but it's going to be basically the same concept. I just might move it around a little bit just to kind of give it a little bit more space in here. But yeah, that's it. This is done. Next up is the server hub, which is going to be a little bit more complicated, as well as a bit more interactive with a couple of the other guys. Satcat, I know, is working on a design for that, and so we're kind of all working back and forth on how we want to do the design for the hub and how we want to do the individual clients here. Just try to come up with some sort of system that'll work for, like I said, a lot of different versions of this. Similar concept of sending an item. The main thing is going to still be sending a warp item through, or sending a tossed item through a portal. But yeah, it's coming along. So talking to some guys on the server here, I realized I overcomplicated things a lot. So what I'm going to do here is I am swapping in some archwood planks and gold ingots into our ender chest. This is one that goes to the Wixie auto crafting. And the reason for that is I want to automate spell prisms. These are planks, gold, and quartz. So I probably should get some quartz as well. I don't have a... The thing is, I need an index down here. But the problem is that if I do that, then I can't stand in that area because it's within range when I'm upstairs. A little annoying. So I did put in these little warps, so I don't have to try to fit through a little hole anymore. So that's nice. I need block let's spell properly, block of quartz. And let's grab a couple of those. Now, I do need to figure out a system to get more of the quartz. That's going to be an issue at some point, I think. But for now, we're just going to ignore it. Put you in here. Alright. Okay, and I believe now... Oh, I need to set these to be in the regular chest, because that's how they work. So I need archwood planks, gold ingot, and block of quartz. And same thing over here, planks, gold, and quartz. Perfect. And then the rest of these quartz and such I can actually send home. That's fine. And now we can set up our next Wixie. So you can do that. And let's break down here, add you to my prism, or add to the crystal cube. Hello there, Wixie. I would like infinite prisms. And you should just work. Should. There we go, gold. Okay, cool, that's working. Add you to the item frame, and I believe it should just start filling up our storage. Well, it'll only do one, I guess. So we also need to add this to our redstone bag. Okay, add you to here. Perfect. Now that will very slowly, but eventually, fill up my redstone bag with spell prisms. It's really handy. Everything else here is actually caught up, so it's working pretty well in here. So, like I said, it's a system that's slow, but it works forever. So, what did I do to complicate this? Well, for one thing, I used red string everywhere. I realized that these hoppers, I don't actually need them. This comparator, I don't need it. Because what I can do instead is, instead of catching the item spell in an inventory, what I want to do instead is I want to catch it in a spell prism. And the reason for that, can my hopper back please? Thank you. The reason for that is, a cool thing with the spell prisms is you can actually just stick an observer on the side of it, and it'll just work. So if a spell goes through here, it's going to just automatically power it for a single tick, which is exactly what I need, and then I don't actually need this circuit here, for the most part. We'll get to the rest of that later. So spell prisms can go over here, and I can get rid of both of these because I don't need this red string, because I'm instead going to have it go, let's grab a block please. Can I get my flight back? No? Okay, cool. We're instead going to put it right here. Flight please. And we can put a prism there to redirect our item this direction, and then of course back down into our inventory to begin with. So that means I don't need this red string container or this hopper. A little bit easier. And the item basically stays in spell form until it comes back into our chest. I may have gotten a little carried away. Yeah, we've got very, very small. So this section here hasn't changed too much, except that the turret is now to the side instead of going down into the portal. And the reason for that is I needed a prism over here. I got rid of the entire top. So I was able to squeeze the entire thing down into this little area here. This is still the same. I've got a comparator reading the hopper there, which then powers the turret. Bounces over here into the prism and goes down into the portal. Portal still just goes right there, so it's still just a temporary thing anyway. Now we're here. Up top here, I have this prism is being watched by an observer, which will then single tick this piston here. When the item comes in as a spell, it'll bounce into this bottom spell prism, which will then be observed and again single tick the piston. So what happens then is, just like before, only a bit faster. I actually had to move the portal I had to move further down, and the warp spot I had to move up a little bit. It's kind of a temporary solution there, just out of when it goes to the actual portal hub, it's not going to matter. There's going to be enough delay between sending the item through and getting the item back that it won't matter anymore. But since it is so close here, I do need to have a little bit more timing there. So just extra block space there and one extra block there. I was standing on I think a dirt or something when I made the warp. So if we toss an item in, bounces around. And everything is underground here. And it just works. Also, it's really satisfying. And of course, since everything is now underground here, there is no really anything up above there. Just that single prism. That's it. and we can then patch up everything and be done with this part of the project. There we go. I still want to do some decoration here. I don't really know what I want. This source jar I could also hide down below. I kind of wanted it up here though. My original plan was to have two of them just to have some symmetry and stick like an iron bars here. Actually, I think there's gold bars in here now. Gold? Ah yes, cork adds gold bars. So I might make some of those and see if those look nice with that. No. Okay, so I just moved the jar underground there. If I'd like to have it for decoration later, we can always add it again. But at least at this point, nothing's here. Lights, of course, are going to go away. But we're done with this project for now. One thing I came up with as an idea for yesterday during work or something. We don't have a way to warp yourself home. I mean, we have the /home command, which works, but I don't know, it's always felt kind of cheaty to me. So I came up with this design, and that is we can't directly warp ourselves with this without leaving it behind or setting up some really complicated thing of like a delayed break. You put it in a chest with a delayed break and then do a rune to blink home. It's kind of weird setting. It works, but it's weird. What I realized is I don't need to send myself home. I just need to send a signal home. So string with an observer. Just anything that touches the string is going to be observed, and it's going to slam the trapdoor down, and this little floating ender pearl here, yeah, it'll blink me home. So all that I need to do is put this in my offhand and hit something with a projectile blink spell, and it'll warp me over here from wherever I am in the world, as long as I'm in the overworld. So one last thing before we go over to the main server hub, because it looks like Zacharys and Satcat have been online. Right here in this little area, this was going to be a big storage area of source as well as an automatic fortune machine, because I need to rebuild that at some point. Instead I decided this would be kind of the arrival pad. So I think when you warp in from the main server hub, where you'll end up is right here, because I think it gives a good view of the base. You got the clock tower, main storeroom, and then you can see the rest of the town over there. So I'm going to take a warp scroll and bind it to right here, I think, and I'm actually going to mark this. Let's stick a, doesn't really matter, I can make it something else later. So I'm going to stand right on the middle here, and I can't remember if this takes your orientation or not, so we'll face right here. Cool. Now let's head over to spawn. And I think I set up a little temporary warp thing here. I think server hub is what the one was. I made that one a while ago, so I hope it's the right one. Judging from the map, it's the right one. Oh, wait. Oh, where are we? Okay, so this was going to be a portal hub originally, and we decided against that. So the plan was, of course, you're going to be just a bunch of different portals here. You can walk in, and we may still use some of these, just kind of for our own purposes of if you want to be able to come into the spawn, because spawn is, if I hit map here, if it'll let me, there we go. Spawn is basically right here anyway, up on the surface. So you got a little building here, and then you can walk down the stairs, and they'll put you down here. So if you'd like, we can still set up some little warp portals here, but what we're interested in is over here. This is the wide area reactive portal system. It's pretty cool. So there is a lot of stuff here, and we still need to kind of clean up the actual entranceway here. So the door would have been centered. Oh well. There is an access hatch down here. Ooh, we have some writing. This is actually my first time, not really in person because it's a game, but this is my first time actually looking at this whole system in person. So we've kind of designed it through we have a creative server that we were working on. I haven't actually logged into that. Mostly I just kind of in Discord saying, hey, we should try this, hey, we should try that. So it's kind of a joint venture between myself, Zacharys, and Satcat, who are currently on Discord. So the way it works, and I need to kind of familiarize myself with this, the way it works is you have an incoming item that lands in a chest. I believe it's this chest. No, this one. Lands in either this chest through a prism. So you can either bounce it in, or you can go into a hopper itself by tossing an item. So it allows us to do things, either have it be just a single item come in, or you can do it through a toss spell. So the item would come in through this top part here, the spell prism, or like I said, you can do it just as a regular item to land in the hopper. The prism just makes it aim down. So this also allows you to be able to have your spell go up into a portal, to get here, or go down into the hopper. Either way, it'll still end up in this hopper. Now, over here, that's not a real... That's glass I can fall through. Okay, let's get ourselves a little pillar here. Actually, let's do it this way with a touch mage block. Cool. So let's hop up so we can kind of look at what's going on here. Inside here, you see a bunch of little item frames there and a carbuncle. That carbuncle's job is to take from the hopper, or in this case actually the warped trapped chest. He takes from the chest and deposits that item into the little slot, depending on which is actually selected for it. So right now you can see we've got 2 different warps set up in there. Let's hop up one more, and if I can get in there, there we go. So he sits here. Hello there. Right now we have 2 items here, a ender pearl and an entwine rod, which represents Satcat and Zacharis. Next up is going to be us. So I wanted I think I had chosen a lantern, so let me grab one of those. And while we're back home to grab the lanterns, I do actually need to set another scroll right here. So we're going to set it, I think, right here. And I don't know if I need to have it go up 1 block, but it doesn't hurt if I do. So we'll go right here and go boop. Cool. Break the glass. There we go. And let's head back to spawn. Okay, so let's land down here, I guess works. Let's hop back up into our spot there. In fact, I don't think we don't need to go through there, but it's kind of nice to be able to fit under there because I can show you everything. We actually have, it looks like there's some access hatches up top here. So we can just open you. Boop, hello. And a carbuncle sitting down there. Hello there. And we're going to put a lantern in this item frame. Like that. Yep, you have a new job. So what you're going to do is you are taking from 5 and storing to 5. So it looks like you've already got 5 set up. Good. Don't need to link anything. You're already set up. This item here, this chest rather, this is just a regular chest. This is where your scroll goes. So this one here is the one to get into my actual warp itself. So that's not what I want. This one is. Yes, it's a trapped chest. The whole point is that it will push this over here to select it. Cool, you're good. Down here then, so it's much easier to show you inside there. Let me hop back in. Yeah, up this way. Boop, boop, boop. A couple more. And let's... I want to slide in there. Right here. Missed. Come on, Elytra. Perfect, first time. Okay. Hello there. Mr. Carbuncle. So, like I mentioned, this is a trapped chest, and the whole point you just kind of saw there is when you open it, it triggers something. So we've got the opening of that will power, let's see, you get powered, the comparator there gets powered based off of an item being inside here, which of course is going to be the lantern itself. Oh right, yes, that was the wrong chest. In fact, there should probably be a scroll somewhere over here now. Nope, I may need to refine that and rebind it. Okay, so turns out the scroll just goes down here. This is the, this one here basically picks where you want to arrive. So this is going to be with the scroll. And that is, this turret here is a projectile blink, which will then basically just kind of warp the player. So you've got a toss turret up there, which takes the item, throws it back into the portals, which then sends it into this portal. And this area right here is where I set my actual warp itself. Can I toss you up like that? Nope, apparently not. We don't have source. Let me grab that. I've got one with me right here. Needs a full source jar each time, so for that, place you down wherever, that's good. And toss our scroll back through. Cool. Wait. Oh, darn, didn't duplicate it. Okay, so we don't have a source yet, so that is something. I'll put this here. But that's okay. So we've got our destination, we've got the blink scroll itself, and we have our item. And I think that's it. I need to set up my base to go to the box there though. So let's hop up here. And we need to go up into this area. And we were the third. So right here. Stand on it. Here we go. And set our last scroll. Doesn't really matter where we're going. We're going to be tossing our item through with a spell. So it's going to go in here and just go straight down into the hopper. So back at here at our base, we're going to go in here, break that portal, pop it back in place, and toss our new scroll in. There we go. And with that, I think we're basically done. So in here, I don't really need to set this, but I'm going to grab one of my lanterns. There we go. I need an ender pearl and an entwine rod, so I need to get one of those from Zachris. So I've been playing around with this for a little bit, and I have to say, system is super satisfying. I've got an entwine rod here that I renamed to Zachris, Satcat for an ender pearl, and myself with a lantern. I don't really need, like I said, one to myself, but we can just kind of use this for demonstration. Press Q, pops in. Pulls that back. You don't even see the item. If you saw little sparkles over here, item's back into here already. And it's always my item. The actual name of it is irrelevant. Carbuncles sort based off of the item itself, not off of the name. So it doesn't really matter what you name it, can be whatever you'd like. Unfortunately, that does mean, however, that you have to have a unique item for each of these, not just a unique name. Anyway, you see an item or a spell bouncing back and forth here. That's just a visual glitch up there. But we can walk in here, and it teleports me right here onto my little pad. I did decide, instead of I was going to do my teleport pad over on that little section there, I figured over here would make more sense, because then it kind of was like, oh yes, this is clearly a teleport area. It makes it a little bit more intuitive. And of course, like I said, I do have the other bases in here. This is going to be expanding as we play. Let's head over to Zachris' place. Same thing, a little bit of a wait here, and we're ready. Over here to Zachris' place. This is not too far from where I am. My base is just over that direction a little bit. We can fly over there, or instead, we could teleport. This is kind of just a smaller design. I wanted mine to be kind of a little bit more bigger, flashier. It's a whole building instead of just a little kind of alcove here. Similarly, we can do the same thing with Satcat. They have theirs on the top. And now we're ready to go. Satcat did change the color of his to be green. This is his little teleport area. This is kind of his own individual teleport, so the way it works is you'd select kind of individual warps, but I don't know how he named them, so I don't really know how to use that part. And then over here is his. He hasn't yet put anything on the hopper, but toss you in, pulls that back. Same basic concept at each of these. Item goes in first. Once it goes into that prism there, it will then redirect this one back out. There we go. And hop in. And there we go. We are back home. So I wanted to do a bit more of an explanation for what all is going on with this whole contraption here. It's rather densely packed here, so it's kind of a little difficult to just kind of look at it and see, oh yes, clearly this is what happens. So we're going to start with an item as it comes in. As an item comes in, it'll go up here, like I mentioned before, between this prism and this hopper. If it's going up, it'll hit the prism, which will then redirect it back down into the hopper. If it's going down as just a spell, then yes, straight in. And if it comes in as just an item, which means not as a spell tossed item, but as an actual item, it will land in one of these hoppers. And of course, the location here is basically, where is this coming from? So for consistency's sake, we're just keeping it the same as the destination here is the same as the, what I'm calling the origination point of where is the spell coming from? Where is the request coming from? So in this case here, this one is mine, third hopper. And over here we have our lantern. Item comes into this little corridor here, goes into that hopper. Now if we hop ourselves down into fly mode, there we go. This hopper goes into a trapped chest. Now a trapped chest, of course, if a player will open it, then it will emit a redstone signal. But importantly, carbuncles also open things. So they'll open the chest just fine, and it will, of course, then signal as if it's a trapped chest opening and closing. So when it does that, it does a couple things. One is it triggers. Which one does it trigger? I guess it triggers That was the whole point. Oh, on that side there. I can't get over there, but there is a pulse repeater here, so the signal comes out of the trapped chest into the repeater into this prism. The prism there will then power the sticky piston underneath it, popping the prism up into place. And I should really put a flight ritual here so I can fly. Pops that up into place, top over here. When it is up, a spell will come in this direction, and we'll come back to it, but it'll be the main target as it comes in. So, items over here, Carbuncle picked it up out of the chest, which fires a piston to pop the prism up into position. Over on this side, Carbuncle, who is now holding an item, says, oh, where should I put this? I'm going to put it in the chest that is marked for it, which in this case is just the next row over. So once the item has been moved into the destination chest, matching whichever that item type is, it will then be detected by this comparator. Now, a comparator we figured out can actually can read an inventory through a spell turret. So even though this kind of acts like a regular dispenser, because it doesn't have its own inventory, the comparator is reading that chest. So notice everything is empty right now. So when the comparator reads anything, even just a value of 1 from a single item, it will send power into this block. This block here powers these 2 sticky pistons. This one bumps it over here, which does a single pulse into this turret, which at the top there you see says projectile toss. And then this one over here, same story, but pops an observer down, powers this bottom prism, which then powers a sticky piston below it, to once again do the same thing of powering a turret thing. So a couple things is this will pop down, pop back up, powers the redstone lamp, and then powers the projectile turret. The projectile blink turret, rather. And then this chest here, which now has an item in it, it tosses the item into the prism chain, goes that direction, bounces over here. Let's see, it goes over, up, into here, bounces into this prism, which then bounces down this line to the destination. Similarly, the actual blink spell does the same thing. It goes into this prism line, which basically just puts a little bit more of a delay in it to once again bounce it back over here to hit this prism, which is now popped up. That prism just pops it into a side prism there, bouncing it down into a portal. And of course those portals are to the destinations. Specifically, they are not necessarily the position that the teleport beam will send you to, but rather is where the projectile beam needs to go. So for instance, with mine being the third item here, if I hop into here, this is actually going to be where my spell turret is going to be firing to. So pop up in here, and it lands me directly on this corner. The reason for that is just with the way coordinates work. Players, for some reason, are still going to a corner. We did have an issue with that. I thought we'd centered it. Items, though, do get centered on the actual block. So this prism is what is selected. Items will end up here. Player ends up around the corner. But, like I said, spell goes down there, hits the bottom prism, bounces into this inventory. Then the spell blasts, the blink spell, rather, the one that actually does something. It'll bounce up back and forth here until you walk into it. So, to quote every redstoner ever, it's really quite simple. And fun to watch. It's very satisfying. Everything else in here is basically just kind of more bells and whistles, really. These barrels here are just for storing extra items, so basically each time you add a new destination, you're going to need to have items for each of the previous destinations. So we just have extra stored there. Scribe table is for if you want to reset the blink spell. So the blink spell will pull from this barrel here. If I look in this one goes to my base, this one goes to Zachrus's, and this one here is going to Satcat's. So what we can do is we have the scribe table down here so that we can recolor these if you'd like. If you notice, when I went to Satcat's place, his was lime green, whereas mine and Zachrus's are just kind of the standard color, which is whatever color it happened to be whenever Zachrus made that, which is kind of like a cyan color, I think. But basically that's it. It just kind of bounces. The whole concept is it just bounces spells around. Bounces that direction, down the line, as well as that one also then goes down the line, and they all just hit whichever is right here popped up. One last thing is we do have a repeater up there. Let's pop up here. Made a little bit of a stairway. If we hop over here, let's close you. There is the only thing that's not using Ars Nouveau for the circuit here is these adjustable pulse repeaters, which basically just put a little bit of a hard-coded delay into popping the piston back down. So what it does is, once the first spell goes in, when a spell goes through this prism to bounce it down into the portal, it's going to emit an observer signal, and after a little bit of a delay, it'll then pull the prism back. That way the next person can then send their order in as well, and it'll bounce into theirs as well. So one kind of potential issue here is that we could have, if two players select a destination at the same time, it may get mixed up, maybe not. Might be easy to fix though. And one last thing is, the entire point of this was to make it as modular as possible. So we actually have a create schematic for this, and it's able to just we can just print more of these as we need. So right now we have 5 areas for a destination, rather. Only 3 of us actually have anything programmed in yet. And it's pretty simple to program. You just pop your item into an item frame up top there, you put your scroll into here, you put your incoming scroll into there, and that's it. Oh, and I guess your portal at your base to send your item here as well has to go to the correct hopper here. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. It's just kind of very compact. We want it to be very small and completely tileable, which I think we accomplished quite well. The entire idea of this system kind of came from Zachris. So he had set up a teleport system in his own base, and the plan was basically, instead of how I have this thing where I just kind of move my warp scroll around and step into a portal, he was setting up a system where you'd select where you want to warp to, and he had like a lectern to select it, and you just kind of page through, and it's like, oh, I want to go to page 3, and then you press a button, and it'll then send a teleport beam. And he was already going to be warping the teleport beam to a specific destination, and we kind of just asked the question, well, why does it have to be just one destination? And so from there, we kind of played around with the mechanics of, well, what would it take to do this? What would it take to pull this off? And we realized it's actually really easy to expand. So yeah, we kind of just took it from there and kept going more and more and more. And what if we did this? What if we added this? What if we added that? Until system as we have it now of just a quick little, oh, we want to go to SatCat. Cool, toss that in. Wait a few seconds here. I need to put some music in. Besides the Minecraft music, which is currently playing. Yes, need to put in like bells and such when it's playing. Mostly just for aesthetic. But yeah, just a system that we can quickly add to. We just need to add a new little beam each time, a new segment of the whole system. And that's it. Really easy to expand, and we can add a bunch of destinations. We've got the witch farm, plan on making a slime farm, lots of stuff like that. Anyway, it's been a very redstone heavy episode, but I'm quite happy with what we've gotten done here, both myself with my little build here, as well as for the whole team of Zachris, SatCat, and myself. Mostly the two of them, they did most of the building. I just kind of helped in Discord. They did most of the building. They did a lot of the actual designing of the circuit. I added a few ideas here and there, like some of the stuff in here. But yeah, the credit goes to those two for the actual building of that whole hub way over there at base, or at spawn rather. But anyway, it's been a great episode. We've gotten a lot done, and I'm quite happy with it. Anyway, thank you for watching. Bye bye.